Hello and welcome to this Warhammer 40K 9th edition battle report, Admech versus Necrons. This is a 2,000 point battle, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So the mission, we had battle lines from the Grand Tournament book 2021 underneath Strike Force. So there's 4 objectives, and our mission fluff was essentially Admech wanted to reestablish their dominance over a planet that was awakened in terms of its Necron population. So that's our little background, and we're going to jump into our secondaries. So for secondaries, we started off with the Necrons having ancient machineries, vital ground, the treasure of eons, Admech having stranglehold, eradication of flesh, and retrieve Octarius data. Here are our armies. So we have the Necrons on the left and the Admech on the right. So to get us started with the Necron list, there's a Canoptic Doomstalker. We have a Overlord on Barge with a War Scythe. We have 2 Canoptic Spiders with particle beams. We have a unit of 5 Necron Scarabs, 2 units of Gauss Flayer Necron Warriors of 20. 14 and 14. Then we have a Technomancer, proxied as a Plasma Lancer. We also have the Nightbringer. We have 5 Necron Destroyers, one of them being a Heavy Destroyer, a unit of 3 Wraiths, and in reserve there is a squad of Flailed Ones, a squad of Destroyers, the combat version, and also 2 units of Crypto Thralls. So that's, for the most part, the list for Necrons, and they have the advance 6 inches at the beginning of the game, and objective secure, which was very important in this match. So we're going to move on to the Admech. So if the Admech, we have the famous Bomber Flyer, who drops some nasty mortal wound payloads, and who has the movement of units. We also have the Dune Crawler. We have a unit of the Riders here. There's, I believe, 5 of them. We have about 3 units of the troops. A couple of them have those special sniper rifle targeting character weapons. Then we have the Chicken Walkers with their amazing las cannons. Those guys are real nasty. Then we have the transport for Admech, and then 2 of the no line of sight shooting versions of that transport, along with a Tech Priest, a Marshal, who has some pretty nifty Warlord traits, and we have a whole unit of 10 Electro Priests inside of the transport, and that's, last but not least, the Flyer Boys with the Flamers. So that is 2,000 points of Admech. And I believe we're going to look at objectives. So we have our 4 objective points, as you can tell. For some of the objectives, for instance, for the Necron ones, this back objective was worth more points. This objective here as well, and this one here was the minimum 0.1. So that was what was targeted for one of the secondaries. And of course, deployment. So one thing that you'll notice in these videos at the next step for turn 1, a lot of these units will have moved up or shifted around. That's because of the 6-inch pre-move in the game. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump on in to turn 1, and Admech ended up getting turn 1. So the main thing for movement, the Raves tried to hide in cover for the Necrons before the game started. The Necron Warriors moved up. The command barge moved over to get some cover along with the Scarabs and also one of the Spiders. So what actually happened then in turn 1 for Admech is Flyer came on the board and destroyed a number of wounds off of the Nightbringer and did a few wounds to the Spider back here. With that, also some wounds were taken on 2 of the Warrior squads. One of them was completely wiped out, and one of them was down to, I believe, about 7 or 10. And he moved up with his Riders here to capture that objective. I believe these guys were also on point as well, just in. And then he shifted around a few things. Chicken walkers moved up, and they did all the damage to those poor destroyers. So turn 1, those destroyers were annihilated. So with that, that is the end of Admech turn 1. We're gonna have a quick video recap. End of Admech turn 1. Lots of destruction here. We had a whole unit of Necron warriors get blasted away. He got stranglehold. You can see the dead pile there in the bottom left corner. And we lost the destroyers. Sad face. But we're going to come back and do Necron turn 1. All right, so now for Necron's turn 1. Again, a lot less on the board here. So the main things that happened, the Raves moved up, and they got into combat, wiped out the unit that they were in. No, they didn't wipe out the unit. They killed one of the chicken walkers, which then he used a stratagem to run back. So they're now sitting out there in the open. Also, the dogs over here, they got wiped out by some shooting and from our scarabs. They did some work. And you'll notice there is a command barge over here behind this building that was moved with, again, one of the relics, along with a unit of Necron warriors to capture this point, which was pretty critical in this game. So they moved up and they actually assaulted and shot the unit that was on this point and got rid of them. So Necrons hold 3 points, all 3 objectives at this point. And that was the end of Necron turn 1. So we'll do a little recap of the video again. End of Necron's turn 1. Failed to charge here in the back with our second fearless leader. Took out a bunch of the chaff units, and the dogs ran after leadership. Killed the chopper. Nightbringer's out in the open now, so he's gonna die. And so are the Wraiths. But look into Admech turn 2 next. Okay, with Admech turn 2, what we have going on is that unit stayed on point, and I believe did one of the secondaries. The Wraiths got almost completely annihilated. One was left on, believe it or not, 1 wound. And besides that, he annihilated the squad of Necron warriors here with that unit of, I believe they're infiltrators, that moved over and just wiped them out. And he did a few wounds to a couple of the spiders, and that's about it. So we're gonna move on to our little video recap. End of Admech turn 2. No more warriors there on the point. Did some damage, got rid of almost all the Wraiths. We're gonna move on to Necron turn 2.
That is right.
Okay, with Necron turn 2, the Nightbringer moved up and advanced. Same with the Crypto Thralls, I dropped those down as well, so a couple things came out of reserve. There was another unit of Crypto Thralls that hid behind this piece of cover. I failed to charge in towards that unit, which was unfortunate. The Wraith tied up these 2 tanks, which was huge. Same with the Scarabs, they assaulted this tank as well. You'll notice that the Dune Crawler is no longer there. One of the Wraiths took out the last wound after shooting from the Canoptic Doom Stalker, brought it down to, I believe, like 1 or 2 wounds, and one of the Scarabs blew up in combat and got rid of that. So that's no longer there. And we also dropped down the Tech Priest, moved over from over here, got rid of that unit in combat, or at least that unit got shot to bits, I believe, by the particle casters. And this unit dropped down and assaulted some of the stuff that was here. But now all this is out in the open, along with a unit of flailed ones who failed their 9-inch charge into the Marshal here. But big play of the game, this Overlord on Command Barge charged that unit, tied them up, and also took out one of the Chicken Walkers, but now you'll see that Chicken Walker is no longer in combat. So that's mainly what the Necrons did this turn. We'll do a quick video recap, and we'll move on. End of Necron turn 2 here. Destroyed the Dune Crawler, destroyed a couple of other units. One of the Chicken Walkers still remains, unfortunately. And yeah, scored a bunch of points. Just have to do one consolidation over there with the Scorptech destroyers. They're kind of out in the open, which is a problem. But there we are. So end of Necron turn 2. Okay, with this one for Admech turn 3, unfortunately the footage didn't work out, so we're just going to do a couple little things here with 2 separate images. So at the beginning of his turn, he brought out the Electro Priests out of that tank, and they charged into this mess here. You'll see the outcome of that combat shortly. These units as well got charged by the infiltrators. His Marshal went on the point. Chicken Walker moved away from the command barge, and that unit fell back. And he dropped down his Flaming Dudes, and they're going to do some damage to, I believe, those Crypto Thralls. So the second part of this, you'll see the aftermath. There is no more chicken buckets, the Crypto Thralls there. They have been annihilated by the Flaming Boys. Somehow the Necron command barge is still intact. The Wraith is still holding those 2 tanks in combat, and the destroyers over here got destroyed by the infiltrators. They do some nasty work in combat. And then out of all that combat, fighting twice with the Electro Priest was just able barely to kill the Nightbringer. And the Nightbringer, I believe, blew up and also killed out a few more of them. So there was only 2 left on the point. But fortunately, this guy was contesting that, if not holding it, because he's objective secure. So those were the main meat and potatoes of that round. So you'll see again, the footage was lost to the warp, unfortunately. Next time we'll make sure to double check things. And this brings us into Necron's turn 3. So with the Necrons, Scarab took care of the last 2 Electro Priests and took that point. The flailed ones, along with the Tech Priest, got rid of the infiltrators, and the Scarabs as well helped get rid of the Marshal there too, along with the Canoptic Doomstalker, did some shooting into there, and I believe took off the last wounds of the Marshal. With that, the Wraith jumped from those 2 tanks over into combat with these guys to try and, again, get a hold of the point, which is a huge thing. And there's going to be some messy business going on with these guys momentarily. You'll see that in the videos. So I had to get rid of that last Chicken Walker, and you'll see what happens. End of Necron turn 3. Lots of stuff died. Killed the Warlord there on his back point. Let's see what happens with Admech turn 3. And again, that was a quick error. It should say Admech turn 4. So with Admech turn 4, we'll get to this Chicken Walker scenario here in a minute. But the main things, he moved his tank onto this point. Again, still having objective secure. He tried shooting at the spider, didn't really do enough. The Flaming Boys moved over to collect data, I believe, over here. And that was, for the most part, it. And then did a few wounds to the Wraith. And you'll notice the command barge is down there, but something happens there, so you'll see this in the video here shortly. Of Admech turn 4, lots of death, lots of carnage. Now we're going to move on to Necron turn 4. So before we do that, here's a redaction. All right, so just want to do a quick redaction. We had the Necron Warlord. He had 1 more wound from living metal from one of the protocols, so he's back up there. We're going to continue on with Necron turn 4. So because of the specific turn, and basically one of the protocols allowed this Overlord to actually heal an extra wound last turn, so he didn't actually end up dying, which was huge for that turn. So with Necron turn 4 though, you'll notice Overlord's gone, and same with that Chicken Walker. With combat, the Overlord essentially killed the Chicken Walker. The Chicken Walker exploded and killed the Overlord. So that's what happened there. The Scarabs and the Tech Priest charged into the tank just to tie that up so it couldn't shoot. This was a slap fest over with the Canoptic Spider in the tank. And then these little guys got shot at by the Canoptic Doomstalker. And yeah, that was pretty much turn 4 for Necrons, so we'll move on to turn 5 in a moment. That was Necron's turn 4. Killed a few things, killed the Tech Priest. Now you see those guys that moved off that one point from the Wraith, so we're going to move on to turn 5 for Admech. Okay, with turn 5, the Wraith that did so much in this game finally got taken down by the combined shooting. And that was kind of the major thing there with Admech turn 5. Of Admech turn 5, he took out the Wraith, and one of the tanks took a bit of damage, and that's it. So we're going to move on to Necron's last turn, turn 5. Okay, so with Necron turn 5, we didn't even do really any shooting, because it wouldn't have mattered at this point. So the Doomstalker moved over to this point and advanced to capture that. This was still being held by the Spider, and this objective as well being held over here, which kind of swayed the points just enough. So you'll see here in a second the final score after the recap video. End of Necron turn 5, didn't bother with the shooting, just trying to calculate points here, so we'll get back to you with the score at the end of the game. So here we have the final score. Very close game. The victory points were 47 to the Admech and 53 to the Necrons. So the Necrons just squeaked out a win. Some of the major things were one turn Stranglehold wasn't completed with the Admech, which really hurt his points. So that was kind of one of the things that my buddy regretted not being able to do. And then with myself with the Necrons, I didn't even do a single Treasure of Eons, so that secondary wasn't even achieved. So with that, some major plays and MVPs. We have the Admech troops just shooting with some fun strats, just annihilated whatever they touched. That was clutch in killing Necron warriors and a number of things. And then for the Necrons, the most valuable player was definitely the Wraiths, being able to charge and then fall back and then charge again. That was huge in tying up tanks and reducing shooting power. So you can see here a little breakdown of some of the secondaries, their points. Unfortunately, I don't have the photo of the primaries, but it all adds up to being 47 to 53. So hopefully you enjoyed this little battle report. I'll try and do a full-on video one for our next one. So until next time, happy hobbying.